Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for today's Whistle Stop tour of the publisher perspective on the affiliate channel in 2023. My name's Kevin Edwards, and I've worked in the affiliate industry now for more than 2 decades, nearly all of it network side, and it's fair to say that in that time it has transformed beyond all recognition. One constant, however, is the ability of the industry to reinvent itself, and that means both long-standing affiliates embracing new tech and routes to market, as well as brand new business models emerging. In the past few years, we've seen the industry embrace new tech offerings, influencers, shopping comparison solutions, and fintech partners to rub along with the cashback, content, and incentive stalwarts. Personally, I've always loved the channel because if you're a retailer, it doesn't matter who you are, there is always a perfect publisher out there for you. But as we approach 2024, how do we get a handle on how healthy the channel is? Is the success of the channel being spread evenly across the whole diverse patchwork of publishing models? How are they embracing new tech? What is it about the channel that they like, and also what is it that they don't like? What are their bugbears? Too often, the publisher voice gets lost. Now, this survey, the first ever conducted, aims to bring some of those opinions and views to the forefront. I hope the results will be used to bring about positive change, spark some new conversations, and elevate the channel. Finally, before we start on the numbers, just a little bit of housekeeping. This webinar, because I didn't trust myself to run it as a live streaming event, is being recorded. But I am actually listening along with you, so I'm going to be taking questions live, and you can pose these in the right hand side of the screen, and I'll do my best to answer as many as possible in the time that we have. You will also receive an email with the full deck that you can use, not just a PDF, and a written report that I've been compiling over the past few weeks. So sit back and enjoy. Very briefly, I won't go into much detail about myself. You can see it here. But as I mentioned, my experience is predominantly network side. I am setting up the Affiliate and Partner Marketing Association, which I'm going to be talking about towards the end of the presentation, which I'd love to get more people involved in. I do have a background in terms of working on some of the sort of key industry issues, predominantly through the work of the Affiliate Marketing Council over the past decade and a bit. My specific areas of interest and expertise are around data and written editorial work as well. I am available for very reasonable rates if you have any white papers, editorial research pieces, or award entries that need writing. And I've also presented quite extensively on the affiliate marketing industry over the past 20 years or so. Last year, I also pulled together a lot of the data for the industry's first advertiser survey. So this is kind of like the mirror image of that from a publisher point of view. So let's start with some broad industry context. Every year, the UK's Internet Advertising Bureau asks some of the largest affiliate networks and platforms to submit their commissions and fees towards their annual ad spend survey. They then specifically split that affiliate revenue back out for us for the affiliate industry, because the ad spend survey doesn't take account of commissions, and we always felt that that meant that we under-indexed. So they separate the data back out and they give it to us so that we can actually contextualize the growth of the channel. And you can see the latest data here in the right hand side of that graphic, and that's from 2022, and it's plotted against the previous 3 years. Now, surprisingly, growth trumped that of this kind of supercharged COVID years, perhaps boosted by the surge in inflation that automatically added 10% growth last year without anyone really needing to grow their revenue at all. The stats remain the only go-to size of industry numbers that we have, but in isolation they don't tell much of the ongoing affiliate story. They also don't account for a large chunk of performance that isn't captured by the 8 networks or so that submit their numbers, and that includes Amazon, who are a notable omission from the numbers. Now, whilst this publisher survey didn't ask for individual businesses to submit their commissions, it has attempted to provide a snapshot of the sheer range, scope and reach of publisher businesses in 2023, and I think you'll be impressed. So the survey was supported by a handful of agencies and networks, and also the team at Hello Partner. It was sent out to publishers during May and June of this year, and 180 responded from more than 165 businesses. There were 27 questions, none of them were compulsory, so I've listed how many responses there were against each question for context. And the questions were a combination of quantitative, which are obviously capturing data, and qualitative, which is kind of capturing obviously more thoughts and attitudes. Now, I mentioned that we can't specifically pinpoint exact numbers, but we do have data ranges. So for example, when I asked for monthly commissions, it was within a range of like 10 to 50,000 pounds, 50 to 100,000 pounds. So whilst it's not possible to look to find a definitive amount, we can find a minimal amount, and we can potentially find a maximum amount as well by choosing the lower and upper end of those ranges. I've obviously gone for the lower end because I wanted to exercise caution, and I've indicated throughout this presentation where that's the case. So inevitably there were going to be some headline stats and some key takeaways, and these are them. So the 180 companies employ at least 10,000 people within the UK, although some of them will probably be outside of the UK. They track at least £250 million per year, and that figure is likely to be considerably higher. 50 of them are multi-million pound businesses based on commissions tracked, and 1 in 3 say their revenues have increased significantly over the past year. Now, looking at some specific elements, tech partners that are, as a relatively new addition to the channel, are now well established, with half tracking more than £1 million in commissions. Publishers are firmly multi-channel, using an average of 4 media formats to drive interest and sales. The most popular of those formats is email, and the combined reach of our 180 is more than 22 million UK consumers. And looking to the future, ChatGPT and AI are perhaps, unsurprisingly, the areas of focus for them for future development and innovation. And don't worry, I'm going to go into further detail about each of these points, but let's start with some fundamental building blocks. Now, affiliate has the knack of grabbing you when you're young and making it very difficult to escape its clutches. You might start network side, but typically you'll then end up at an agency or a publisher or maybe brand side, but it's very difficult to escape. So when we asked how long have you or the business you work for operated in the affiliate and partner channel, to me it was unsurprising to see such a wealth of experience that brands can call on. And that expertise should provide real assurance that companies are dealing with people who have a wealth of experience under their belt. 2 in 3 said that they had more than 5 years, with 1 in 5 earning the badge of industry stalwart thanks to more than 15 years in the game. Unsurprisingly, the new kids on the blocks, influencers, had the least experience, reflected in the relatively recent addition of this marketing channel to the mix. Around half of those who identified as influencers have been doing it for less than 12 months. While tech partner offerings may appear similarly current, those of us with experience of working with them recognise them and their teams from their previous publisher incarnations, which provides comfort to brands, I think, that when they're looking to work with these kind of untried and untested tech solutions, that they're tapping into significant expertise. And this data surely shows that by now the industry is firmly established and there's a vast amount of experience that brands can call on. And that level of maturity is reflected in the size of businesses that comprise our 180 publishers. There is still a prevailing myth, I think, that publishers are part-time hobbyists. And whilst some definitely use it as a side gig, publisher businesses are significant UK employers. Our data showed that more than 3/4 of those responding to the survey have multiple employees, with 30% boasting workforces in excess of 50 people. Now, while data captured in the survey doesn't give us precise average numbers of employees per publisher business because of those ranges I mentioned earlier, the average is around 52, but it could be as high as 100. Many of them are thriving operations with large account management, product development and marketing teams, all geared to generating billions in revenue for UK brands. And what's more, we can have a stab at quantifying what their collective salaries account to and therefore what they are spending within the UK economy. If we multiply the average salary of a British affiliate marketer, which is £43,000 according to the latest data from Glassdoor, by the lower end figure from that survey of around about 10,000 people employed by the 180 companies, they're collectively earning well in excess of £400 million, and that figure could be as high as £1 billion. Scale that up across the whole industry, and the affiliate channel is clearly a significant contributor to the UK's economic coffers. Now, no one will say terminology is the most important issue facing affiliate marketers, but as we know, words matter, and the channel's relentless internal discussion about how we talk about ourselves shows no sign of abating. But rather than leave it to networks, agencies, and brands, why not ask the group of people they're labeling to have the final say? So which is it? If you're a publisher, do you recognize affiliate, or do you feel partner is more reflective of the current way you do business with advertisers? Which do you prefer? That, it would seem, depends on where you focus your attention. 50% of tech solutions are adamant that they're partners, which logically feels like a good fit. After all, they're partnering with brands to offer technical plugins that help them with their on-site conversion or basket abandonment, etc. However, the term partner doesn't resonate at all with editorial sites or bloggers and influencers, with fewer than 1 in 10 opting for the term, publisher being by far and away their preferred option. 60% of voucher code sites identified as publishers, and 50% of cashback and loyalty sites agreed with them. What may be most insightful, however, is not necessarily how few respondents preferred partner, but how the term affiliate is falling out of favour. Rather than cramming all activity into the rather clumsy phrase affiliate and partner marketing, perhaps we plump for publisher marketing and put the conversation to bed once and for all. So whilst there's no consensus on how publishers classify themselves when asked to choose a single way of referring to themselves using classic affiliate categories, we can see just how diverse the range of responses is, with the biggest cohort being bloggers and editorial sites. So given there was no overwhelming bias towards any one group of affiliates, as you can see here, we can possibly conclude that this dataset represents a mix of views from across the publisher spectrum. The way we choose to classify affiliates is, however, I think, problematic. All networks and platforms naturally require some element of categorization, because without it, reporting obviously becomes difficult, in fact impossible. But affiliate classification from a reporting point of view is at best misleading, because it ignores the diversity of ways people promote, and at worst it gives a false impression of what is actually happening within programs, which can in turn lead to decisions based on flawed information. Categorization ignores the way a sale or click has been delivered, and I often cite the example of a blogger that might be featuring codes that help their customers convert versus a voucher code site that often converts a very, very high percentage of their sales without a code ever being redeemed. In each of these cases, how would you classify the sale? And as the channel has grown, publishers have also become multi-channel operators in their own right. They don't just rely on a single way of driving a sale. Instead, they pull on the levers of a whole host of marketing solutions, from social to blogs to email. And with that in mind, consider the 2% of publishers who identify as email affiliates, circled here in the blue. And let's take a deep dive into the granular way publishers promote advertisers. Now, this brings me on to one of my favourite insights from the survey. Because despite just 2% of publishers identifying as email affiliates, it remains the most used method of promotion by a 180. By far, you can see the blue bar at the bottom, which states more than half use email and newsletters to drive clicks and sales. Overall, on average, publishers use 4 different channels or methods to promote advertisers, and 1 said they use 15, and 5 said they use 14 different ways. And this is why affiliate categorization can be misleading, because while an affiliate has to identify as one type, they're likely to be using multiple routes to market, from paid to unpaid media. It is vital that brands and networks fully grasp the complexity and nuance of how individual brands affiliates are. Understanding the role each of these interactions play in driving the final conversion, and just how multi-channel affiliates have become, will really help develop everyone's appreciation of the channel. They were also able to select from a list of prescribed channels, i.e. email, Facebook, but they could also suggest their own terms as well, and that's reflected here in this word cloud, which really helps bring to life the complexity of the channel in 2023. Before we leave the subject of email, let's delve a little deeper into how publishers and affiliates are using it as a way of generating interest in advertisers' products and services. When asked if you have an email database, and if you do, how large is it, 2/3 of respondents replied that they do, and half said that they can tap into at least 100,000 UK consumers. Whilst they weren't asked what percentage of their traffic and sales are driven by their email efforts, it clearly remains an important channel for it to be used so ubiquitously. Now, it's not possible to pinpoint an exact number of UK consumers who can be targeted through publisher emails, Respondents were asked to select a range, but we can give a rough estimate. 1 in 4 respondents, or 1 in 3 who use email for promotional purposes, can boast an email subscriber list in excess of 500,000 consumers. Now, while there is undoubtedly double accounting to take into consideration within the lists, where consumers are signed up to multiple affiliate lists, the potential addressable audience is likely to be in excess of 22 million UK shoppers from just our 180 publishers. As a brand, therefore, it's definitely worth asking them for greater clarity on how email is driving revenue, especially when only 2% of our respondents identified as email-first publishers. Now we know a little bit about who our respondents are and how they're driving clicks and sales. What can we say about the amount of commission they're earning and their attitudes to it? The question in this instance, how much publishers earned on average per month. The largest contingent of respondents were people working for large businesses. 1 in 4 own or are employed by companies that turn over at least £200 million a year. Now, scaling up monthly earnings, we can also conclude that 50 of the 133 who answered are working or operating multi-million pound enterprises. Drilling down the data on a more granular level shows that 80% of influencers who responded earn less than £5,000 a month, which would indicate that their work could be supplementary income. And it's a note for me that it's worth asking in next year's survey whether their affiliate marketing activity is a full-time job or a side hustle. Unsurprisingly, given how long and well established they are as part of the affiliate marketing landscape, a majority of voucher and cashback sites track at least seven-digit commissions every year. Half of the tech companies responding, which was 7 from 14, also pulled in more than £1 million in commissions last year, proving the effectiveness of their tech to drive sales, whilst they also operate on different cookie overwriting rules to most other publishers. They have quickly established themselves as an important part of the affiliate marketing ecosystem. So how much has that changed in the past year? We've already seen impressive double-digit growth from the IAB. It's worth noting that inflation means that, as I mentioned earlier, we could all have sat on our hands and average baskets would have risen by more than 10% in a year. The combination of affiliate growth and rising prices, however, seems to be borne out by our 180, with 1 in 3 seeing significant growth, a similar amount seeing more modest increases. By contrast, 18% have reported a drop, so the net benefit of that shows decent growth even if we don't have the figures to hand. Breaking the data down by those affiliate types shows editorial and tech companies posting the highest year-on-year hikes, but even cashback experiencing the lowest growth from any of the 4 major affiliate types. They still saw 19% of cashback sites witnessing significant growth. So given that growth, the attractiveness of the channel is clear, but how attractive is it to publishers? So this could be reflected in our next question, another favourite of mine, which asks approximately what percentage of revenue for our 180 comes from affiliate marketing. It's probably fair to say that many agencies, networks and advertisers assume that publishers earn pretty much all of their revenue from the affiliate channel. But how does this assumption stack up? Now, it may surprise people that 1/3 of publishers draw 50% or less of their revenue from affiliate marketing, and for 1 in 5 it is less than 1/4 of their income. By contrast, for half it is between 3/4 and their entire revenue. Almost 40% of bloggers and editorial sites draw 1/4 or less of their revenue from the affiliate and partner channel. For the major affiliate types, price comparison is most reliant and influencers the least, with almost 2/3 of the latter tracking 50% or less of their revenue from the channel. All this indicates that when we work with many publishers, it is important to remember we are competing with other channels for their attention. They do not have an exclusive relationship with the channel and are diversifying their revenue. Now this, I think, should be seen as an opportunity for networks, agencies and brands to try and claim a greater share of their on-site activity. So the picture seems pretty rosy. Robust growth spread well across the industry, with even just a slight note of caution that those who generate the least amount of revenue through the channel aren't experiencing such rapid growth. However, double-digit healthy growth is still enviable. But while that may be happening on the ground, how do publishers feel about whether they're fairly rewarded for this revenue? And that formed the basis of another survey question. Do you feel that advertisers in general pay fair commissions for sales that you generate? The data at a top level is inconclusive. The biggest tranche of respondents feel they probably do, coming in at 37%, but the next largest at 33% think they probably don't. What is clear is that there is very little enthusiasm for the idea that advertisers are definitely fairly rewarding, at just 1 in 50 respondents indicating this, versus around 1 in 8 who are adamant they're not being adequately compensated. The last available return on investment numbers for the affiliate channel from 2017 show a figure of around £16 earned for every £1 spent, more than double the return from spending, for example, on Google Ads. Our channel accounts for more than 10% of UK retail sales, but only 4% of marketing spend, which shows that it definitely punches way above its weight. But does that come at the expense of not paying fair rewards for sales generated? With budgets being squeezed, commissions can be the first on the chopping block. But is there a point at which publishers will start to pull back on specific activity if it doesn't financially stack up? Where this data starts to get interesting is when it is separated out by the two major incentive publisher types, voucher and cashback sites, indicated here with the initials CB for cashback and V for vouchers. When asked the same question about whether commissions match efforts, publishers in these categories are far clearer in their dissatisfaction, especially voucher and coupon companies, with 2/3 of them having a negative view, a small majority of cashback sites feeling the same. It is important to note the data sets are still fairly small when broken down to this level, but voices from many of the major players in the space were represented, so they definitely account for sizable UK affiliate revenue. The results of the survey seem to support general advertiser approaches if making cost savings, reducing commissions with these two publisher groups has the biggest impact, and as earlier data shows, these publishers may be the most resistant to pulling their links. Now, I reached out to Eowyn's data team, who kindly gave me some trends by affiliate types from 2022 to 2023, tracing the change in average commission earned, and this is average commission earned as a percent of basket. Quick note that their classification won't exactly mirror mine, but it is generally fair correlation between the classification of affiliate types. As you can see, while voucher code sites certainly earn the lowest on average per sale, the data in the boxes shows this year's average commissions against last year's in brackets, they are trending up compared to influencers, cashback and content sites who have actually seen an erosion. Now these numbers are surprisingly high in terms of decline or growth, which raises questions around how much inflation is masking budget cuts. While erosion of commissions has been slow and incremental over the years, these are quite dramatic changes and are maybe reflected in the dissatisfaction with commission levels in general. Now, the past couple of pages have dealt with views about commissions and payments, but what happens when an advertiser actually stops paying? Zeroing commissions at certain times or on certain products, whilst not commonplace, exists and remains a perennial bugbear of publishers. The survey asks, would 0% commissions stop you promoting a brand? And the results show that it will almost certainly lead to a diminished affiliate program, with just over a quarter saying they would definitely quit pushing an advertiser who made this move, and a further 33% saying they probably would stop. Yet publishers who are unhappy about the practice continue to promote the advertisers who pursue it. That said, perhaps programs with zero commissions are being shunned, and we have little public insight to show just how negatively impacted the campaigns are. A before and after analysis would be useful here and is a note for future surveys. The warning, however, is clear for advertisers who pursue a zero commission policy. Publishers may ultimately shun them, restricting the size and growth of their affiliate programs. One additional insight that emerged from the zero commissions question came from drilling down the data by affiliate type. Isolating the data for bloggers and editorial sites shows a clear indication that these publishers expect to be rewarded for their contributions to sales. 60% indicated they were probably or definitely likely to spend their time, effort and resource elsewhere. This should definitely ring alarm bells with advertisers who pursue this policy, as these are the exact type of publishers that brands often identify as those that they want to attract to their programs. Perhaps specialist affiliates who focus on building content rather than just harvesting as many inbound links through SEO have to be more particular about which brands they promote. Given these publishers tend to be smaller, they also need assurances that any upfront investment is fairly rewarded. And the situation is summed up in the comments section of the survey, with one content publisher simply concluding, "Stop paying rubbish rates for existing customers." So let's turn to how affiliates and publishers are paid. For a channel still predicated on an overwhelmingly last click cost per acquisition model, the diversity of payments that our 180 publishers received in the past year is surprisingly diverse. It is logical that CPA, both as a percentage of basket and fixed fee per transaction, should come out on top, but tenancies are enjoyed by a small majority as well. In keeping with our earlier findings about email, publishers are monetizing the function, with 4 in 10 earning off the back of their email sends. Cost per lead is still popular despite a drive towards harder performance-orientated payments, and despite little fanfare, 1 in 5 have been rewarded for mobile cost per installs. That publishers have been rewarded in such a variety of ways indicates how they've adapted their propositions to offer advertisers a range of options in targeting consumers across devices and at different stages of the purchase cycle. It is for publishers to demonstrate through their reporting how effective they are at driving customers. Now, responding to the question when promoting advertisers what factors are important to you, it is unsurprising that earning potential came out on top. In keeping with the industry's rebranding exercise toward partnerships, collaboration and relationships were favoured by half of those surveyed. There has been a notable shift towards more equitable partnerships between publishers and brands, perhaps signified here. And despite the shift towards automation and self-serve, the channel remains one that is built on relationships, and they clearly still matter, especially in an age where working from home has become the norm for many businesses, starving people from the types of human interactions we used to take for granted. For brands focusing on how well they convert customers when a publisher has pushed them onto their site remains something that their affiliates will keep a close eye on, with half saying click-to-conversion rates are also important. It is often stated that the affiliate channel is an accessible, low barrier to entry way to monetize traffic if you're an aspiring publisher. But just how easy is it to do? Whether it's applying to a network, finding creative, or building links, what do publishers think about the technology that they use? Now, the first question posed about usability was, when you're approved onto an advertiser program, how easy in general is it to create a link or creative? Now, the good news for networks is that by and large, generating a link to promote an advertiser doesn't appear to pose too much of a challenge, with 91% responding positively or, at the worst, neutrally. Only 8% of those surveyed felt it was fairly or very difficult to pull links from user interfaces, with 3/4 seemingly having few issues. Encouragingly, there was no publisher type outlier here. While influencers tracked slightly higher for difficulty, perhaps unsurprisingly given it's a newer addition to the channel, the numbers were pretty consistent with the overarching results. The data indicates that networks from a usability point of view are doing a decent job in providing technology that is intuitive and easy to use, and it would seem that publishers have confidence in their ability to monetize their content through links. So far, so good. If we then take a wider view, how much does the picture change? How do these numbers shift when we ask about network and platform user interfaces and their ease of use? This is an important question because UIs are where publishers not only pull their links from, they also monitor their performance, connect with advertisers, track their payments, and evaluate which brands to work with next. Here the picture is slightly less encouraging for networks and SaaS companies. First, the positives. A majority of respondents find them easy or very easy to navigate, but the percentage is down on the more straightforward act of just pulling links in the previous slide. The more worrying stats show that around 1 in 4 publishers find user interfaces quite or very difficult to use. And that's important because networks and suppliers often state their publisher numbers run into the tens or even the hundreds of thousands. And if 1/4 of those are struggling to use their software, then that should be a concern and it should ring alarm bells. The logical conclusion is that networks and SaaS companies are leaving money on the table if they're not carrying out extensive customer research and investing in product development to improve their interfaces and support. Let's hope that they have panels of publishers consulting with them on their next product releases. And now for a couple of insights that tap into some developments we've seen in the industry. One of the biggest trends in the channel over the past 3 or 4 years has been the exponential rise of small businesses choosing to launch affiliate programs. It's fair to say that success for SMEs a decade ago was pretty patchy. High costs, low returns, and low publisher interest meant that many closed their programs feeling jaded and out of pocket. But fast forward to 2023, and networks are now clamoring to attract small businesses to their networks, having developed low barrier to entry and affordable solutions. It seems to be paying dividends, with thousands embracing the channel as a place to grow their brands. And that's why we asked the question, are you interested in promoting smaller brands? And the results here you can see are hugely encouraging, with 92% receptive, validating network investment in this area. Another trend that publishers have been able to tap into is helping consumers who are struggling financially. We're obviously living in straitened times, and while inflation is falling, that still means average household budgets are under strain. It is therefore logical to assume that in a bid to save money, consumers are seeking out the best deals and prices, which is natural affiliate marketing territory. As mentioned at the start of the report, the channel is witnessing impressive growth, so we wanted to find out whether that was translating into how publishers feel by asking whether the affiliate channel has become more important to them in light of the cost of living crisis. Are they seeing greater engagement as a result? 1 in 4 feel that it has become significantly more important, compared to just 1% saying the opposite. Now, whilst the biggest response was that there was little change, the net benefit of those replying positively is reflected in general channel growth. So a brief word here about technology that publishers are considering in the next 12 months. It shouldn't really come as any surprise that AI and ChatGPT came out on top here. In this question, it was a free text-filled question, so we asked publishers just if they felt like it, if they wanted to submit their numbers. It only listed around about 60 responses. Obviously, affiliates like to keep their plans close to their checks, but the focus is clear and unequivocal. How that will manifest itself is up for debate and is still largely unproven. It will also be interesting to see what reaction there is to automated content, which may be seen as an attempt to game the system or flood the internet with bot-like activity. The dust will settle, and we will see some interesting work practices emerge from the use of machine learning, which we're already starting to see being rolled out by networks and platforms. And I think this is definitely one to watch, and one that we will definitely follow up in next year's survey. So the last few questions I asked were fairly open-ended ones. As these offered a free text field, I've attempted to collate the data and aggregate it around broad themes, which I dropped into a few word clouds to get a sense of where the heads are of the surveyed 180. Hearts and minds question this. If you could change one thing to make affiliate marketing easier, what would it be? Inevitably, payments was the most frequently mentioned topic, with various comments around the speed of payouts, transparency around processes, and sophistication of payouts as well. For me, this is an area that could be the next battleground as networks and platforms compete to offer ever faster payouts, recognizing that improved cash flow for publishers means that they can then reinvest not only within their business to pay for more media, but also to build out new functionality and solutions, which obviously then in turn drives additional revenue, and it's kind of a virtuous circle, and everybody benefits. So watch this space. For an industry predicated on relationships, it was encouraging to see so many publishers asking for closer collaboration with brands, networks, and agencies, whether it's through human interaction or automated technology. Breaking down the barriers in order to do business remains a priority. Many publishers still feel that the way that they are measured and therefore rewarded and remunerated requires an overhaul. Whilst last click CPA dominates, as we've seen in a previous slide, the data on payment models may indicate that brands are receptive to working more creatively to reward their publishers across the sales path. And finally, tracking remains an area of vital importance. It's foundational, obviously, and underpins our ability to do our jobs, but a series of micro and macro factors, legacy systems, and confusion around what good implementation looks like, not to mention the confusing and inconsistent language used, means we must all do better and keep on this topic as much as possible. Our future prosperity depends upon it. So let's pull all the strands together from today and consider what a blueprint for future publisher success might look like. Effectively, for me, falls into 3 categories: transparency and communications, payments and commissions, and technology and tracking. Better communication between all parties will lead to greater insight into sticking points that throttle success. Awareness of these will create better processes, break down barriers, and make us more efficient. If we can crack payments, that will also eradicate cash flow issues, leading to greater ongoing investment by affiliates. New investment will breed innovation and greater commercial sophistication, and also fairly reward affiliates for their efforts. And finally, that will all be underpinned by easy to understand, consistent and bulletproof tracking solutions designed to provide transparency on what works, enabling us to stamp out bad implementations as soon as possible. And that will help us to drive the next generation of affiliate models. Which brings me on to the work I'm doing with the newly formed Affiliate and Partner Marketing Association. This is the first industry-wide trade organisation we've had, and as the founder and director, I'm on a mission to do something radical, as identified on this slide. I want to create bulletproof standards and professional processes. I want to stamp out bad practice and shoot for bigger budgets. I also want to celebrate success and give a loud voice to the affiliate channel. And I want us to be truly representative of the diverse industry we are. It's a daunting but exciting proposition, and it launches next month at PI Live. Now, I thought I'd leave you with some potential projects that we might tackle within the APMA next year. So in July, just gone, I held 4 workshops, one for each of the main cohorts, so advertisers, agencies, networks, and obviously publishers. And within the group of publishers that attended those workshops, I asked them to pinpoint what they would anticipate or what they would expect a trade body to do in order to help them and their businesses. And then we aggregated all of the feedback, and then we anonymously voted on which we thought were most important. And then we talked through each of those subjects, and we defined 3 core areas that we, as a group, as a publisher group, decided was going to be important and would be a really sort of good set of projects for the trade body to work on. And you can see them here on the screen. Tracking optimization, processing payments. Neither of those themes were a shock to me. You know, they are the 2 things that typically publishers are always keen to optimize. And then the third one, which came through very strongly from all of the workshops, was around advocacy, how we talk about the industry positively, not just within our own circles, but elevate it beyond our industry to reach out to additional people outside of the affiliate industry. So I hope everyone watching will see the significant uplift that the industry could get if we are able to deliver on these 3 core projects, and will really get behind the trade body and hopefully help support it in the coming years. If you'd like to get involved, or if you're just interested in finding out more, please register your interest by going to the apma.co.uk. And that brings us to a close today's webinar. I hope you're going to take away some new insights, perspective, or angles, and it's given you a new sense of optimism in the channel. Clearly, some of the numbers within it are hugely impressive. It's also clear that the industry is a vibrant, fast-growing and rewarding place to operate. And whilst there's always going to be room for improvement and areas of concern, by at least acknowledging them head-on, we're in a much better place to address them and continue our onward campaign for bigger budgets and greater success. Keep an eye out for a follow-up email which will contain these slides and also the written report that I mentioned. And that's about it from me for today. So thank you very much for your time today, and enjoy the rest of your day.